One of our strongest senses is the sense of smell. The fresh brewed coffee, chocolate chip cookies baking, the smell of spring. My memory of New York after 9/11 is a stale smell of death. My name is Jim Daly. I'm a volunteer with the Salvation Army Emergency Disaster Services. Went to New York after 9/11 and was assigned by the Salvation Army to serve food on the midnight shift at the morgue. When I reported to the morgue the first night for orientation, the two officers there handed me a chaplain jacket. And I protested that I was not a chaplain, that I'm simply a volunteer. And they explained, no, you're the Salvation Army representative, so you're the chaplain here. So I asked what it involved. They said basically if there's no chaplain at the pit when a body is discovered, they'll expect you to lead a prayer service here when the body is brought to the morgue. And they also went on to say that there are a lot of Irish Catholic cops and firefighters in New York, and so if I could work in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, that they'd really like that. Being Catholic, I said that part was easy. It was the rest of it that I was worried about. So we finally agreed that I would just wear a Salvation Army jacket, and then if called upon, I guess I would be the chaplain. So I worried about that, and in the some of the literature and things that we had available, there was a small prayer card, which I still have to this day. And I decided I would use the quote on the back, which is simply from John 3:16, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." So I carried that in my shirt pocket for 2 weeks and never got called upon to use it. So what would happen, a body would be brought on a fire truck in a procession led by fire engines. When it arrived at the morgue, we'd all line up on either side and stand at attention as the body was taken down off the fire truck and carried into the morgue. Being a retired deputy sheriff, I knew the smell of death, and yet there was a stale smell of death that permeated the air down there. We were working in a plywood shelter built on the sidewalk outside the morgue. And in that shelter we had hot food, we made coffee, and served food to the workers. They were doing 24-hour DNA testing on body parts, trying to match body parts against the DNA database that had been set up. Down the street from us, about 100 feet, was a large tent that covered 18 refrigerated semi-trailers. They held thousands of body parts that were being tested. Again, that's unique stale smell of death was present there. There's a small memorial area with flowers inside that covered area, and even though I worked midnights, I get up and went down there at noon on Friday for a prayer service. Inside our shelter, we were serving everything from stuffed shells to sirloin burgers. Salvation Army had begun buying food from local restaurants to get them back into normal business. So we had a delightful smell coming from a grill where we toasted sandwiches to order. We always had fresh coffee brewing. Our plywood walls were lined with drawings and messages that children had sent to New York from all across the country. In quiet moments, it was comforting to walk along and look at the papers that conveyed children's thoughts. There's a special bond between police and firefighters in time of line of duty deaths. We all know that it could just as well have been our turn to die. On the midnight shift, many cops and firefighters stopped to get in a cup of coffee, something to eat. Once they learned I was a retired cop, they began to share their stories with me. Everybody had chance happenings that saved their life and took their friends' lives. One that I remember in particular, a police lieutenant told how he had been stopped 3 times on his way in. Otherwise, he would have been at the towers when they actually collapsed. His wife was assigned to work at the towers that day as a police officer, and not until he got home late that night did he find out that at the last minute she was reassigned and she was okay. So at the end of that time, I came home changed. You know, the entire nation felt the hurt. When I was in New York, people would stop me on the street because I was wearing a Salvation Army jacket and thank me for being there. And I tried to explain that as soon as I opened my mouth, of course, they knew I wasn't from New York. And when they heard I was from Minnesota, I tried to explain that it was really a national tragedy and we were all part of it. And they were so appreciative of that. So, as I teach the classes for Salvation Army, I remind my students of the quote that is attributed to St. Francis of Assisi, who said, "Preach the gospel, if necessary, use words." And I think our actions speak louder than words for everybody. Thank you.